There's been a lot of talk of something that just recently came up in the Nintendo community regarding a canceled game that seemed to be extremely promising. And this originally came up from Did You Know Gaming, and they actually made a whole pretty much hour-long video about a lost game from Nintendo that actually got canceled. And that game is revolving around a 3D Donkey Kong platformer. Yes, and I know a lot of people's hearts just broke, but this is something that we've heard about a couple of weeks ago, and it started to really make the rounds that apparently there was a 3D Donkey Kong game being made by Vicarious Visions, which was the original team behind the, Crash Bandicoot remake and obviously the Skylander games. But Did You Know Gaming did some extensive diving into research and interviewing past developers and really digging into what this game was and if it was even real. And based on all the information that they were able to pull up, they found some pretty concrete evidence that this game did in fact exist, and they have some pretty good details as to how long it was lasted in production and what exactly happened and how it all fell apart. Now, once again, you can go watch the full video from Did You Know Gaming. I will link it in the description down below, but they do an incredible job at explaining how this all went down. And also, Arlo also jumped onto this not too long ago, discussing his take on this Donkey Kong game, and I kind of wanted to give you guys mine. So what's happening? What happened? What is the history behind this thing? I'm going to do my best to sum it up as quickly as possible. But pretty much, Vicarious Visions apparently came to Nintendo and asked if they could work together on a brand new 3D Donkey Kong game. And this was as far back as 2016. Now, at the time, they just recently started working with Nintendo thanks to Skylanders Supercharged, where they were actually able to get Donkey Kong and Bowser as playable characters and many amiibo action figure hybrid toys in order to launch alongside the game, which was a pretty big deal. Right after this, in 2016, reports began to pop up that Nintendo and Activision were actually working together on something a lot bigger. And in fact, thanks to Did You Know Gaming, they get some information and details telling that, yeah, this was a really big project that was kept under tight wraps. Now, apparently at Vicarious Visions, there were actual walls placed in the offices, where they walled up a specific section of the office where it was pretty much locked shut and you couldn't get inside. And apparently this is where the game was being worked on, being tested, and the demos were being shown off. You know how Nintendo is, so I don't doubt it. If Nintendo's giving one of their IPs off to another studio, they probably want it under protection. They don't want anybody knowing about it. Nintendo likes secrecy and they don't like stuff coming out. I mean, just look at how Mario Rabbids were handled, where, apparently it got leaked everywhere thanks to Ubisoft working with it. So yeah, Nintendo probably just does not like that stuff to happen, so they probably wanted to keep it under super tight wraps. But apparently it's being developed, behind walls and in very specific circumstances. It was going pretty strong for like 6 months, and apparently Nintendo loved everything that they've seen, and it sounded like a really good idea. And let me actually dive into the idea that was actually on the table at the time. This was going to be a 3D open sandbox Donkey Kong game, allowing Donkey Kong to explore giant open regions, so I'm guessing something maybe similar to Super Mario Sunshine or Super Mario Odyssey, giving that open sandbox style. Maybe not necessarily open world, but definitely open zone. The actual footage that you're seeing right now was actually a fan-made project that actually is kind of giving us a visualization as to what this could have looked like, and it looks like it was perhaps made in dreams. I'm not 100% sure. I will also link the channel down below where you can check out all the gameplay footage and stuff that they have made, but I just wanted to show this footage as I talk about it so you can get kind of a visualization. So apparently this was going to take place in a jungle cityscape, so very similar to Kirby and the Forgotten Land, where it's a city overrun by vines and jungle stuff. It would have been really, really cool. I mean, that sounds awesome. But apparently Donkey Kong was going to be able to kind of grind on vines and swing across the jungle in a complete momentum-based 3D adventure game. So everything that you do will carry momentum. That means bouncing off of mushrooms that was included in the report, and even like trying to scale giant buildings covered in vines by bouncing off mushrooms, grinding on vines. I mean, this seriously sounded almost too good to be true, and apparently Nintendo was loving everything about it. There was also reports that Miyamoto was very heavily involved, and you can obviously see that with like Mario Rabbids, where he was always there and watching the team and helping them out as well. And apparently the only problem Miyamoto had was Donkey Kong grinding on vines all day would hurt his feet. no joke, that apparently was one of the only complaints. So the team had the idea to give Donkey Kong banana peels on his feet, so that way when he grind, he would kind of have like his own version of skateboards or skates being banana peels. And Miyamoto loved it, and they continued production. Seriously, that was the only problem, and everything looked smooth. So what happened? How did this game not happen with it being starting development in, 2016? And apparently, this studio was one of the very first studios to receive Nintendo Switch development kits, so this was planned for the Switch. As you've seen from some of these clips, it was also rumored that Pauline was going to be a playable character, whether she was like in stealth missions or just did her own separate thing, it's unsure, but that just sounds so awesome as well. It just hurts more and more I read this thing. Now, apparently a lot of inspiration for this game was just a big cultivation of everything that they have worked on, with Tony Hawk Pro Skater games and also Jet Set Radio and even Guitar Hero, just going with flow and progression and the grind mechanic. It was all going to work perfectly on flowing into this 3D Donkey Kong game. So yeah, everything looked good, everything sounded good, but believe it or not, it wasn't Nintendo that had to pull the plug here. Now, the big unfortunate thing is Activision owned Vicarious Visions, and they did not want to have visions of anything unique, any single-player campaign, any ambitious projects that could cost them money. They wanted the teams to focus on what made them the most money, and that was Call of Duty, and that's exactly pretty much all they wanted from the team, is Call of Duty and Destiny 2, baby. And apparently lots of the team members, including the two brothers that founded Vicarious Visions, said that it was pretty much absolutely miserable just working on Call of Duty and Destiny 2, and a lot of the team members ended up jumping ship with the two brothers as well, where they went off and started their own studio. The two brothers would then start Valen Studios, where they had lots of previous Vicarious Vision developers join their team as well. And they actually produced two games that I feel like a lot of people might have heard of. The first one being Knockout City, which actually was a really cool battle royale, team-based online competitive dodgeball game, which was actually pretty cool for a long time, and I myself actually remember having quite a lot of fun with this game. But then they also developed something that I'm sure a lot of you guys remember, which is Mario Kart Live Home Circuit. Yep, I know you guys remember this one, which was kind of a really cool toy video game hybrid, which actually makes a lot of sense considering the fact with their background with things like Skylanders. And in fact, the developer that actually designed the Skylander toys was also the one that helped to design the toy for this Mario Kart Live Home Circuit game. So that was pretty cool. But clearly, they are in good cahoots, I guess you could say, with Nintendo right now with their newly found studio and got away from Activision, which, oh gosh, it's so crazy how this whole world is just based on first and third person shooters now, because they sell well, and you can't argue with it, because if you're really trying to make money, you're just going to keep making these games. And it sucks because every single year, everyone jumps to the new Call of Duty, no matter how trashed the previous year one was, and they just keep on playing it and playing it and playing it and buying it and buying it and buying it, and that's really all we can expect. And that's probably a good reason why there's just such a lack of 3D platformers and original games from anyone outside of Nintendo. I mean, you just seen fan reaction with Sony's State of Play, where no one cared about like any of the games that they showed. And then finally they ended the show with Astrobot, where obviously everyone was super excited for. It's a game that people have been asking for. A lot of people have been saying, and myself included, said that the best game on PS5 right now is the pack-in demo with Astrobot. So having a full-fledged Astrobot 3D platformer game is huge, and it clearly shows with the trailer views alone. I mean, no joke, minutes ago, as I'm recording this video, I see a report saying that there is not a new Banjo-Kazooie game coming, and there's nothing Banjo-Kazooie related in development, which is just crazy to think about. You know, I think a remake would be huge for that franchise right now, and after its debut in Smash, it made more sense, and it's kind of just stupid to me. Well, yes, we can all blame Activision for this project just being canceled, because I guess Call of Duty and Destiny was more important than a brand new awesome 3D Donkey Kong game, which probably would have sold like absolute mad, especially if it was the first couple of years of Switch. I mean, goodness gracious. Here we are in 2024 with absolutely no word of a Donkey Kong game coming out. In fact, we've been hearing rumors that maybe the Odyssey team picked it up, and there was rumors that it could have been 2D, or it could have been 3D, and nothing ever came. We're in 2024 and there's been nothing. No new Donkey Kong game. In fact, Nintendo just had a Nintendo Direct where they revealed Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. Yeah, another old Donkey Kong game. But I know a lot of people seem to be very down in the dumps about this. This was in 2016 though. This was a very, very long time ago. So things could have definitely changed by now. And there could have been a new studio to pick up this idea, or maybe even the brothers at Velen Studios now are working on this game with Nintendo together. Who truly knows? But I would actually be completely 100% shocked to the core if there was not a 3D Donkey Kong game being developed right now. And I know a lot of people are saying like, huh, what makes you say that? Well, it's also that we got Tropical Freeze on the Switch. We got Donkey Kong Country Returns on the Switch. I almost highly doubt there's going to be a new 2D Donkey Kong game, at least right now. I feel like the next viable step is 3D. It just makes a lot of sense, and I feel like it's something that's just bound to happen, and maybe it's just being saved for Switch 2 or whatever Nintendo's planning for the future. But whatever it is, it has to be coming soon, with rumors of a Donkey Kong movie coming as well, and that Donkey Kong theme park. Like, yeah, come on. And real quick, I just want to bring up how big 3D platformers can change a franchise. I mean, 2D games are already very popular. Look at Kirby. Kirby has grown in popularity from its primarily only 2D games. And finally, in 2022, HAL Labs released their very first 3D Kirby adventure game. And as of right now, it has sold 7.52 million copies worldwide. In case you're not 100% sure how much that is nuts. Like, that is insane, especially for a secondary outsourced studio like HAL Labs to be working with Nintendo on this, and it's not really in-house Nintendo technically. It's just crazy. Like, this is a clear indicator that fans want 3D platformers, and I can already probably guarantee you that HAL Labs is already hard at work and probably halfway done with the next 3D Kirby by now, because it would just make sense. Look at how well that sold. Hey, if HAL Labs can do it with Kirby, growing Kirby from a very small 2D platformer franchise to a huge 3D platformer one now, what's to say Velen Studios can't be doing the same right now? And also, what's to say that wouldn't be possible, considering the fact that Nintendo has been working with tons of other companies with their games. For instance, Ubisoft was able to work with the Star Fox characters for Battle for Atlas, having a whole like Star Fox additional downloadable content, and also the 2 Mario Rabbids games, which uses Nintendo's most important characters like Mario, Luigi, Peach, Yoshi, and even Donkey Kong with a whole Donkey Kong DLC expanded gameplay. So look, I know a lot of people are worried out there, including Arlo, but listen Arlo, if you're watching this, I'm not trying to just randomly get your hopes up, but I'm saying I think there's a really good chance that we'll be seeing a 3D Donkey Kong, and actually very soon. I think it's a better chance than ever with how unprotective Nintendo is with their IPs as of late, and letting, you know, different companies work with some of their most popular brands. So I think there's a good shot we could be seeing a 3D Donkey Kong, and in fact, I'm saying within the next 2 years, I'd say it's going to be a guarantee. I hope I'm not wrong. I'm praying I'm not wrong, but that's just me. I'm hopeful thinking, but I'm also realistically thinking it just makes sense at this point. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about this. Would you have loved to see this Donkey Kong game come to fruition? Do you still think there is a potential for a 3D Donkey Kong game coming soon? And how mad are you at Activision for this? Because they suck. They're the freaking worst. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe before you head out. And like always, I'll see you all on the next one. See you guys.